Hey everyone, welcome back to CrossTalk podcast. I'm Tomoya.
Hi, I'm Andrea.
So today we are going to talk about wording.
Wording, okay.
Yes. Can you explain wording to our listener?
Okay, so wording is just being conscious of your word choice. So in other words, choosing the best word for the situation.
Right.
Choosing the best word for that sentence. Yeah.
Right.
And specifically today, we're talking about how wording can change how you feel about something. So it changes the nuance of what you're saying, basically.
Right. I have one question, Anderson.
Okay.
Do you ever feel guilty or sad about spending time alone?
No, never. I like to spend time alone, actually.
So this topic might not for you, but we want to talk about it anyway.
Yes.
And is there a similar stigma around alone time in your country?
A little bit. Like, I think a lot of people who do things by themselves, in Japan too, like some people feel there's a stigma or like a kind of a negative vibe or a negative feeling around doing something by themselves. For example, like going to a cafe by yourself or going to a restaurant by yourself or traveling by yourself. There's a bit of a stigma, yeah.
Right. It has been changing in Japan.
Yeah, it has been recently. Like solo travel and solo camping and solo this, solo that. Like it has a better meaning these days. Yeah.
Right. So I want to share a news from the internet.
Okay.
There was a recent study from the University of Michigan. There's two researchers. They did a couple of studies to see how people feel about different labels for time alone.
Okay. So different labels meaning how you call that time, how the wording that you used for that time. Okay.
Right.
What did they find out?
Okay, I will explain a little more detail.
Okay.
So they had students spend time alone. They're calling it either me time or isolation.
Okay. So that time alone is called either me time or isolation. So very different terms, very different words.
Right. Do you ever use me time?
Yeah, sometimes I do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a decent English.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's very popular right now. People will say, I need some me time. Or, I'd like some me time. Meaning they want to spend time alone doing the things they want to do.
Okay.
Yeah, it's proper English.
I didn't know that.
Okay, good. You learned something new today.
Yes, thank you for that.
So what did the researchers find regarding these two terms, me time and isolation?
The researcher find me time has a positive effect to students.
Okay.
And isolation has a negative impact on them.
Okay, yeah, I would imagine that to be the case.
Yes. So I want to ask Anderson, how can you feel difference these two words? Like when you say me time, do you feel like positive, negative?
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel positive. Me time, to me, and probably to most native speakers, it indicates that it's a choice. You choose to be alone. You choose to spend time by yourself doing something. But like isolation, it's not a choice. It's like you have to be alone for some like a medical reason, or, like when COVID was spreading around, people were in isolation. They had to be in their room by themselves for 2 weeks or whatever, or 1 week. I forgot what the time was. But it's not a choice. It's kind of a restriction. So it's a negative feeling for sure.
Yes, I can see that.
So what did the researchers find about how the students felt about the wording of me time versus isolation? Did they have different feeling?
The researcher finds out me time group thought about personal growth.
Okay, it's a positive thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And an isolation group thought about school.
Okay, so that's not necessarily bad, but it's not as positive and like forward thinking as personal growth.
So I kind of see, these differences.
Yeah.
Me time feel a little more, as the researcher said, personal growth.
Yeah.
And isolation, it kind of have a powerful, strong image, powerful image of something has been, I don't know.
Like pushed on you, kind
Right.
of. It's like a restriction, I
Right.
think. I think like the only times I've heard isolation used really was for illnesses or like a government restriction. For example, before the Meiji period in Japan, Japan was in a period of isolation where the government restricted any kind of exchange with other countries. So it's like a restriction from the government or a restriction from your doctor or something.
I didn't know how it called. In Japan, we say sakoku.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
In English, I think it'd be like the period of isolation.
Okay, period of
Japan's-
isolation.
yeah.
Nice.
So Japan chose, or the government chose, actually, to isolate the country from the influence of the rest of the world.
Okay, so if I said the period of me time,
It's a bit strange. It's a bit strange.
is it?
Yeah.
Okay. So different label might change or affect your outlook.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about other examples.
Sure. Some really easy ones could be, for example, if you say your work is stressful, obviously that's very negative.
Stressful.
But if you say your work is challenging, that's like, it's difficult, but it's interesting. So it's more of a positive nuance, more of a positive vibe. So like stressful versus challenging.
Nice.
Yeah. Another example that's really popular in America right now is talking about size, like body size. Instead of saying someone is fat, like fat is a taboo word. No one says fat anymore. That's really, really negative.
Yes.
And it's rude. And you never say someone's fat because, it's just really, really bad. But you could say curvy.
Curvy.
Yeah, you can say someone's curvy.
Is it from a game?
No, I don't know. It's not from a game, but it's just, it has a sexier
Oh.
connotation to say
Okay.
curvy. Not Kirby, curvy. Curvy.
Okay. So curvy has a kind of a
Something more like sexual.
Sexual
Well, yeah,
nuance.
more sexy. Like you're
Okay.
cute and sexy. You're not just fat. You actually have curves, right?
interesting.
Yeah.
I picked up another example. So recently, today actually, I talked with one of a student.
Yeah.
And then I asked him about what kind of a season do you like? And then he said, I don't know. And then he said, I'm an indoor person. I prefer, I don't know. He said something like this. And I came up this idea before started recording. And then indoor might have a negative nuance.
It depends on how it's used. It could be.
Yeah, for me, it has a little bit of a negative nuance. But
Not inherently, not in its own, but it depends on like the group of people you're with. Like,
Okay.
for example, if you're with people that really, really are outdoor people, then they might look down on someone who's an indoor person.
okay.
But just by itself, it doesn't have a bad meaning or a negative connotation.
I think there's a cultural difference. We Japanese people think indoor means nerd or something.
Yeah, Americans do too, but that's not necessarily bad. It could just mean like you study a lot, which is a good thing.
Okay.
You like to, be more serious or more studious or, you like do more academic stuff. That's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, just it depends on how it's used.
Okay.
And with whom.
Okay. So anyways, I thought about this. Instead of saying indoor, I say inner explorer. It's a little bit silly, but
It is a bit silly.
since I play game too much, this kind of a wording
It's good for you,
I
right?
see sometimes on TV games.
Oh, really? Okay. That's
Inner Explorer.
okay. That sounds like you're exploring the inside of yourself, like your mental condition, not just indoors.
No, yeah, right.
Okay. So it does have that connotation too. Okay.
Right.
That's cute. That's very cute.
Thank you. Yeah. So simply changing the level from loneliness to me time can improve our experience, right?
Yeah, yeah. And the same like with indoor and indoor explorer or inner explorer or whatever.
Curvy.
Yeah, curvy versus fat. Like this really changes the way people feel and your mood and the way you think about things.
Yeah. I have another question, Andrea-san.
Okay.
I recently had an experience with a student that really highlight this.
Okay.
She was using the word unfortunately to describe something that she doesn't want it to do.
Okay.
So I kind of mentioned her unfortunately is a kind of a strong word to deny something. Right?
It can be, yeah. Like it does have a very negative feeling to it, yeah. But if she didn't enjoy her job, that's okay to say, unfortunately.
It wasn't her job, but it's something else.
Okay.
But anyway, so I suggested her using, for example, personally.
Oh, okay. Like personally.
Personally, I think I do not want to do that. So,
Okay. Right. Because it makes it sound then more like it's your personal choice rather than the entire job that is terrible. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you heard of unfortunately from a company, you feel like, oh, something went wrong or,
Right. Something big went wrong, probably. Something bad happened.
Right.
Like you're about to get fired.
Right.
It's usually like, unfortunately, we have to cut your job. Something like that, right?
Yeah.
That would be a very negative thing.
I think it's really strong, right?
Yeah, it can be. Yeah,
Yes.
it can be. Very, very much so, yeah.
So I just mentioned her, this unfortunately can be too strong sometimes.
Yeah, it depends on the context, of course, the
so-
situation.
Although, how we can connect this to language learning?
Okay, well, obviously 2 points. One is just be very, like you mentioned just now, be conscious, be kind of careful of the words that we say, the words that we choose. Because certain words do have, like you mentioned, a very negative or very powerful, like too strong of a nuance. As far as language learning goes, like, for example, everyone makes mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes when you learn a new language. That's a given. That's going to happen to everyone. But instead of saying like you made a mistake or you failed to do something, you failed to remember something, you can say that it was a learning opportunity. So I didn't know that word. I failed at learning it, but now I know it. So now it was a learning chance, or it was a chance for me to learn a new word. So this is something that I try to do because I'm still learning Japanese. I don't know a lot of, current vocabulary. There's a lot of things I still don't know. So I try to have a positive mindset and say, okay, I had a chance to learn a new word today.
Right.
Instead of saying, oh, I didn't know that, or I failed to learn that when I was in school, or, oh, I learned it, but I forgot it. I just say, oh, it was a chance to learn something new today.
Nice. That's a good way to learn something new.
Try to remember it. Okay, so today we explored how some of the words that we choose, especially labeling, for example, our alone time as me time instead of isolation, or, fat versus curvy. These things can completely change our experience and our outlook on something. And we also saw how being mindful of these words can make a huge difference in language learning too.
So we love to hear your stories. Have you noticed how different words affect your feelings about being alone or learning a new language? Share your experience with us. Alright, that's all for this episode. But don't forget to catch our next one.
This is CrossTalk signing off, bringing you English your way every week.
Keep listening and keep shining.
Bye.